It was another boring Christmas Eve. My roommate was out on a date with his girlfriend, leaving me home alone. I randomly picked a Christmas movie to watch, only to realize I had chosen a horror movie. I quickly turned off the TV, and the deafening scream from the movie finally stopped. No longer in the mood for TV, I decided to call it a night and head to bed early. But after finishing my nightly routine, the bathroom door got stuck. At first, I felt more confused than worried. It's just the two of us guys living here, so I never bother locking the bathroom door. But tonight, for some reason, the door was jammed shut, combined with the creepy vibe of the horror movie I'd just watched. The whole situation felt off. I've never found having a sturdy door so troublesome. I kicked it with all my might, but it didn't budge. Out of options, I pressed my ear against the wall to listen for any noise from the neighbors, but they were having a party, and my sounds were drowned out by the music. The room is 10 by 10 by 8 feet. Based on the usual oxygen levels, I could stay conscious for another 1 to 3 hours, depending on my physical condition and energy consumption. I calmed down and tried to break the lock, but it wasn't as easy as in the movies. Frustrated, I used force on the door handle, but it didn't work either. Suddenly, I heard shouting from my living room. I was about to call for help, but then I realized it wasn't my friend's voice. At least 2 people were fighting. My house had been broken into. The fight abruptly stopped. I held my breath as footsteps approached. Had they discovered me and planned to eliminate me? The intruder stopped at the bathroom door and started talking to me.
You're the owner of this house, right? Don't worry, I'm just a part-time worker dressed as Santa Claus to deliver gifts to kids. I found an intruder in your house, but don't worry, I've taken care of him.
I pretended to listen to his excuses, having no other choice as I was about to suffocate in this small room. He used a saw to break the door. He was definitely trying to intimidate me. The door opened. I felt a chill down my spine, my heart racing. I had to stay alert and find a chance to fight back. The intruder, dressed as Santa Claus, seemed to have indeed fought with someone, but I couldn't trust him easily. I threw a bar of soap at him. As I hoped, the intruder slipped on the soap, and I quickly escaped his reach. I quickly ran to the living room to call the police, but the sight stopped me in my tracks. There was a large pool of blood on the floor, indicating someone was seriously injured. It couldn't be the thief I had just taken down. He must have an accomplice, so I couldn't act recklessly until I found the injured one. I grabbed a firework tube, ready to fight these thieves.
You bastard, trying to escape? What? Where did he go?
The thief's words confused me. It seemed they weren't on the same side. No matter, I had to deal with the one in front of me first. The sound of fireworks and the thief's screams filled me with satisfaction. I had defeated my first enemy of the night. Just then, the appearance of an uninvited guest made me feel scared. In front of me stood a Santa Claus, but what terrified me was that he looked and appeared exactly like the Santa Claus from the horror movie I had just watched. The thief seemed extremely scared of this Santa Claus, only managing to scream in fear before running away. But what I saw next horrified me even more. That Santa Claus had just teleported right in front of me. The thief, now targeted by Santa Claus, looked utterly terrified as if facing a demon.
You're not human. I clearly killed you earlier.
I was horrified to see 2 Santa Clauses in front of me, and it was clear the second one wasn't human. I had to do something to stop him before he dealt with the thief and turned on me. Both were dressed identically and kept switching positions. I held a dart in my hand but didn't know where to aim. I decided to throw it with all my might. Tonight, neither of them would leave my house safely. The dart flew, and I took one down. The one I hit was the thief. The remaining Santa Claus looked at me with a mocking smile, which filled me with fear. Even though it was self-defense, I had to admit I had just killed someone. Before I could recover, another horrifying scene unfolded before my eyes. The Santa Claus in front of me seemed like a grim reaper, sucking the thief's soul. He turned the thief into an ornament in his gift bag. Startled with fear, I faced a nameless, mysterious force. Regretting turning off the horror movie too soon, I wondered if watching further might have revealed how to confront this demonic Santa Claus.
Since you killed someone, you are a naughty child, and naughty children must be taken away.
My whole body froze, and then the evil Santa lunged at me, enveloping me in endless darkness. I had been mindlessly scrolling through my phone, watching random videos, when an ad popped up. Detect ghosts within 2 meters. It blared in bold letters, followed by eerie music. It looked ridiculous, probably just another gimmick. But I love horror. I was genuinely curious to see how detecting a nearby ghost would scare me. I downloaded the app. As the screen loaded, the app explained how it worked. Something about EMF readings and special sensors. I wasn't paying attention. I was just ready to laugh at how fake it would be. The app booted up and a radar-like interface appeared on my phone. I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, sure," I muttered. For a minute, nothing happened. The screen stayed blank as I pointed it around the living room. I was about to delete it when the phone vibrated in my hand. "Ghost detected." I froze. The words blinked at me, the phone emitting a soft beep. Okay, that's creepy, I thought, but it was just a coincidence. Then I heard it, a faint clatter, the unmistakable sound of a dish hitting the floor in the kitchen. My skin prickled, the hairs on my neck standing on end. Slowly, I clutched my phone and made my way to the kitchen. It was probably just the wind or a breeze from an open window, nothing more. But when I stepped into the room, everything was in place, except for a shattered bowl on the floor. No big deal. It must have been too close to the edge, I told myself. I knelt down to pick up the pieces, muttering under my breath about clumsy accidents, but something felt off. The windows were closed, and there wasn't a breeze. Just as I was gathering the shards, I noticed movement. Something small, pale, and thin. My heart stopped. Right there, just inches from my hand, a long, bony hand was gathering grains of rice from the shattered bowl. The hand was skeletal, fingers impossibly long, the nails cracked and yellowed. I held my breath as the hand slowly, deliberately pulled back into the shadows under the kitchen counter. My eyes followed it, and there, in the corner by the refrigerator, something was crouched in the darkness. It was hunched, its body grotesquely thin, limbs too long for its frame. Its face, pale and gaunt, with hollow, sunken eyes, turned toward me, and in its hand, It was holding a single grain of rice, which it slowly, disgustingly brought to its mouth and ate. I stood paralyzed, my legs trembling. The thing's eyes, dead, hollow pits, locked onto mine. It reached out again, its arms impossibly long, fingers stretching toward the shattered remains of the bowl, plucking at the rice like a starving animal. I bolted. Without thinking, I ran out of the kitchen, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. My mind raced. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. I had probably imagined it. After all, I had just watched a horror movie. Yeah, that had to be it. But then my phone buzzed again. Ghost detected. The message made my blood run cold. No, not again. I was still standing in the hallway, catching my breath, when I heard the faint creak of a cabinet door. Slowly, I peeked into the living room. My TV drawer door was wide open. I hadn't touched it. I stepped closer, the tension building in my chest. That's when I noticed the drawer under the TV, shaking violently as if something inside was trying to break free. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, and stepped closer. The rattling grew more frantic, the drawer slamming against the cabinet as though it were possessed. My hand hovered over the handle, trembling as I debated whether or not to open it. Before I could make a decision, the drawer burst open with a loud bang and something came crawling out. I stumbled back, my legs barely holding me up. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be real. Human heads, disembodied, their eyes wide open and mouths agape, were spilling out of the drawer, rolling across the floor. But they didn't stop at the floor. No, they lifted, hovering in the air like grotesque balloons, their eyes fixed on me as they floated toward the ceiling. I backed into the wall, my heart hammering in my chest. One of the heads twitched, its mouth stretching into a ghastly grin. My breath caught in my throat as I scrambled to get to my bedroom in my panic. The heads floated closer, circling above me like vultures waiting for me to drop. I could hear the faint, garbled whispers escaping their lips, but I couldn't understand a word. All I knew was that I had to get out of there. I slammed the door shut, gasping for breath. I heard nothing more and breathed a sigh of relief. My phone buzzed again, many times, its vibration pulling my attention back to the screen. I hesitated for a second before glancing down. Ghost detected. The words sent a chill down my spine. I decided to delete the app. It seemed like I had been on my phone for too long, and my mind was no longer clear. I should get some sleep.
I hadn't seen Grandma in 3 years. After the divorce, Mum and I moved across the country, and we couldn't afford to visit. Or maybe Mum just didn't want to. But when her new boyfriend gave her tickets to Costa Rica, she suddenly thought it was a great idea for me to spend a week with Grandma.
Come on, Ava, Grandma's great. She'll teach you how to knit and bake cookies.
As I arrived at Grandma's house, something felt off. She looked the same, white hair, blue eyes, but she seemed distant, almost cold.
Hello, my dear,
she said, smiling in a way that didn't quite reach her eyes. The first few days were okay. We baked cookies and talked, but there were moments when Grandma acted strangely. She forgot my name once, calling me every name she could think of. What was even stranger was when Grandma warned me not to go into the basement, giving only a brief explanation.
It's dangerous. If you go down there, I'll punish you in the most painful way.
I swallowed hard and nodded, unsure of what to say. Then she smiled and said she was just joking, but the way she laughed sent chills down my spine. I forced a smile, but I couldn't hide the disappointment. That basement had once been a treasure trove of memories. but I told myself it was for my safety and tried to push the thought aside. That night, I woke up with a dry throat and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. As I passed through the dimly lit hallway, I saw her, Grandma, sitting in her old armchair in the living room. She wasn't knitting or reading like she usually did. Instead, she was completely still, her body rigid, eyes locked on me. Her eyes flicked toward me, but they weren't the warm eyes I remembered. They darted back and forth, unnervingly fast, as if they were searching for something, or someone. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away. She didn't respond, didn't move, just kept staring with those wild, rolling eyes. I turned and bolted back to my room, slamming the door behind me, trying to shake the image from my mind. The next morning, I cautiously asked her about it. "Grandma, were you up last night? You were staring at me." She looked at me, puzzled.
I don't remember that, dear. Must have been sleepwalking or something.
But there was a heaviness in her voice that didn't sit right with me. Her tone was deeper than usual, and her movements seemed sluggish, almost disjointed. All day I watched her closely. She walked with a strange, uneven gait, and her speech was off, like it took extra effort to form words. Something was terribly wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. That night, as she slept, I heard something, faint, muffled cries. I followed the strange sound out of the room and down the hallway. They were coming from the basement. I froze, listening intently, and my blood ran cold when I recognized the voice. It was Grandma's voice, but it was pleading, desperate. Without thinking, I grabbed the old key hanging by the kitchen door and crept down to the basement. The stairs creaked under my weight and the air grew colder with each step. When I reached the bottom, I could barely breathe. There, on an old surgical table, was my grandmother, my real grandmother. Her head was bandaged, but I could see where the scalp had been crudely cut, revealing bone beneath. Her eyes were missing, just empty sockets staring up at the ceiling. Tears streamed down her face as she whimpered.
Ava, don't! It's not me. Up there, it's not me.
"Grandma!" I rushed to her side, fumbling with the chains that bound her to the table. "I'll get you out of here, I promise." But as I struggled with the lock, I heard the basement door creak open behind me. I turned slowly, my blood turning to ice as I saw the other grandma, no, the thing pretending to be her, standing at the top of the stairs. Its eyes, no longer darting, were fixed on me with a cold, furious stare.
"Oh, Ava, you shouldn't have come down here.
It said, its voice hollow and echoing in the small space.
Now you know too much."
I backed away, my hands shaking. What the hell are you?
"I am what you see. I take what is mine. Memories, life, identity. But this body and this mind is too weak. I want yours."
In a flash, the thing leaped off the stairs and was on me before I could react, its hands like icy claws gripping my arms with inhuman strength. I screamed, but it was drowned out by the creature's growl, a deep sound that sent a jolt of terror through my entire body. My head hit the cold stone, and for a moment, the world spun, dark spots dancing in my vision. I struggled against its grip, but it was too strong, its fingers digging painfully into my skin. Its face inches from mine, so close I could feel its icy breath against my cheek.
"But now, you'll end up just like her, a hollow shell."
The creature's other hand moved to my face, and I felt its cold fingers brush against my temple. The touch sent a shockwave of pain through my skull, like needles being driven into my brain. I cried out, thrashing against its hold, but it only tightened its grip. "Stop! Please! Don't do this!" But the creature only smiled wider, its teeth unnervingly sharp, almost predatory.
"You're mine now, Ava. And when I'm done, No one will ever know you existed.